Welcome to How to Money with Kole and Kole.
I'm Kole.
And I'm Kole.
We coach people every day on their money and how to plan for the future.
As financial advisors, we're here to have an honest conversation on investing, retirement, and everything in between.
At Full Swing Financial Planning, we're here to empower you to take control of your plan, your way, for your financial future.
So let's talk money.
And sports.
Welcome back to How to Money with Kole and Kole. I am your host, Baileigh Ashbrook, and I just want to give it up for Cole Peterson and Cole Jaskey. They led our second graders to an undefeated football season.
Oh, yeah. Whoop, whoop.
You guys are like, where is she
Coach
going?
P, shout out.
What?
Coach P. Shout out to Coach P.
Oh, I couldn't do without Coach Cole J.
Hey, and Lucas.
And Luke.
And Lucas.
Defensive coordinator, a.k.a. Phil Parker.
Yeah.
He's going to love that if he listens to this.
He listens to every episode, he told me.
Yeah, we had him on shutdown last game. It was, I think, 6 touchdowns to 0. It's
awesome.
Pretty good.
I don't
Good
know.
group.
Luke was talking to one of the other coaches, Schuler, the game before, and he's like, man, you guys got a system down pack. Your kids listen. They're on it. And Luke's like, oh, I should have told Cole P that comment because he would have loved it.
That's like my number one thing I tell him is like, when I'm talking, you're not talking. Cole's heard me say that like 100 times.
Which is hard for first and second graders.
Right.
So.
It's a very tough age. I coached soccer boys last night that age, and I don't have as much patience as some. So anyways, football is among us.
Steelers are 3-0. Whoop, whoop.
Cole Jaskey's
Steelers look
excited.
tough.
Leading the division.
Cowboys,
Didn't see that coming.
they stink.
Cowboys are hurting a little bit. And
How are your Broncos?
won their first game this weekend at Tampa Bay, which was very unexpected. But I do not think they're going to be very good. They had a lot of growing pains. They got a rookie quarterback.
Lost to the Steelers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and the Steelers
in
are
Denver.
good.
And you
I mean,
went. You went
Yeah,
to
I
the
was at the
game.
game, yeah.
How was that?
It was sweet. First time out there. Mile was awesome. It was a packed house, but it was pretty quiet crowd, though. The Steelers fans drowned out there just wasn't a lot for the Broncos going on. So
I feel like your
it was
Broncos
kind of a boring
have been
game,
struggling.
They have been, yeah. Since Peyton Manning left, they've really struggled. So hopefully Knicks is the answer. I've tell you the honest truth, I haven't watched a whole lot of football.
It's because you've been coaching 3 teams. Is
Right.
it 3 you coach? 2.
Just 2, but 3 of my kids. 2 of my kids are on one team.
The twin girls showed
Yeah.
out. Sweet. Basketball, WNBA, Fever.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't think they're going to beat Connecticut. Connecticut's really good.
I think they have a chance to take it to game 3. You got to remember, Kelsey Mitchell's first ever playoff game. Clark's first playoff. I mean, a lot of them. And then the other team, obviously, Connecticut.
Speaking as a true fan over here,
Yeah.
very optimistic.
I am.
I
I'm an
watched
optimistic human being.
I watched the start of that game with Joseph, my 14-year-old son, and they flashed the stat. None of the starters had ever played in a playoff game. Not all 5 starters. None of them have ever played in a playoff game, and the whole Indiana roster had only played in 19.
This is where my basketball brain goes to. They shot terrible, like Kelsey and Clark. So if you can shoot that bad and still kind of be in it for the most of the part of the game, it just takes shooting well to bring it back around.
They did end up losing by 24.
Cool. I said in the beginning.
In
and
the
also,
beginning.
just so you know, this playoff ticket was more expensive than any other playoff game ever in history of WNBA.
I think there's a bet on the
Clark
6th game
economics.
going on right now that we're just not realizing. I've
Yeah.
got Connecticut. You got Indiana?
Yeah, I got the Fever. I always take.
Okay.
You guys
And this
can
next
bet
game?
10 push-ups or something.
Yeah, you want to do 10 push-ups?
10
Let's
push-ups.
do $10.
Oh, yeah,
He
do
knows
that.
I-
Make Bailey squirm,
He
please.
knows I hate
Yeah.
betting money.
Let's
Yes.
bet $100.
No, gosh, no. I'll do
$10 it is.
10
All
bucks.
right, 10
I'll be the
$10
mediator.
and 10 push-ups.
There you go.
Deal.
both.
And you got to do the push-ups on video.
I can't believe you didn't make me give you points.
No.
She just wants the straight up
I
bet.
just want a W. I just
All
want
right.
to take
Money
game
line.
three.
Go.
All right, so should we get into today's topic?
Let's go. I love it.
All right, Cole J, shout out. This is all him. He came up with this great episode. So just want to give credit where credit's due.
I knew, we can do anything with the internet.
The internet's the Googler. So we did use the Google and the internet, and we found the most common financial statements that we all make, that you either heard growing up, you still hear them today. We're going to break down these statements, kind of like the psychology behind them.
Little read and reaction, right?
Like a reaction, like our natural reaction to when we hear people use that phrase, and then maybe some tips and tools on how to change your language.
Yeah, behavioral finance. It's
Yes.
a real thing. I mean, people have their ways they go about their money, and it is hard to change, right? You get into way you do things, and especially different parts in your life, you've got to realize that things do change over your lifespan.
And the way you were raised, I think, is very influential on how you see money and who you surround yourself and how they act around money. But I always say this, I feel like some people maybe hesitate with financial planning or investing because they think, oh, I don't understand numbers, when really it's behavior. Like personal finance is 80% behavior, 20% doing the work. So let's get into it. You want me to read the first one? I'll see what you guys react to.
Let's go.
Should I just pick one?
Whatever you want.
Money doesn't grow on trees.
Paul Peterson's favorite line. That's my dad.
I feel like that is definitely their era, their generation's like go-to money quote.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
So I don't know where this phrase come from, but there's, I'm a big believer in mindset of just, willing things to happen. But a lot of that is like you tell yourself something repeatedly. It's why writing your goals down is very effective, because you write it down. You're manifesting. You're manifesting it. And, I have a phrase, we we used to kind of use in our house. So like, we call it like more shake the money tree.
Give it a little shake.
Yeah, shake the money tree. So it's like, hey, we can, if we want more money, we can find ways to either educate ourselves, work harder, whatever it might be. So I never heard this much, money doesn't grow. Normally when it was like when I was destroying something as a child.
Oh, my dad used this.
I probably use it to my kids every once in a while. Like, hey,
I have said this.
Or an example of like, I was mad at Chelsea last night. We got brand new pans and she used a knife on a pan, like the Caraway pans.
I was just gonna say, you guys got the Caraway ones too.
I'm like, and I don't cook. I can't say anything about cooking. I do none of the cooking at home. She does everything at home. And I was like, we got in kind of an argument about this. So I'm like,
these pans
we can afford to buy new pans, but it's still like, it's the principle of like, these pans
taking
are expensive.
care of it. Yes.
So that's that example. But I really think this isn't something I try to, put on my kids. Yes, I want them to respect money, but I also want them to know like, hey, it's more about hard work, education, and driving yourself than just like worrying about every expense of where the dollars are coming and going.
I think there's more behind it. Just using a blanket. That's why I don't like the blanket statement of money doesn't grow on trees. Well, it doesn't grow on trees, but I had a client the other day that her account was up like $5,000 one day, and she's just like, I can't believe she had never really invested, and now she's seen the fruit of so it didn't grow on trees, but it grew in her account. I mean, it does kind of grow if you do things right. So the blanket statement, money doesn't grow on trees. Usually, what is it? A kid's asking for a toy, they're at Target, and you don't need it. So it's more like knowing what your wants, your needs, and when to spend that excess cash that you maybe do have available to you.
I do feel like this one does reflect like hard work, that you just do not get money, which I do appreciate. But I also feel like it puts the limitation, like you were saying, like money doesn't grow on trees. You can't just get anywhere, where it's like, I feel like we have these conversations a lot, like taking care of stuff. Like we don't just want to buy it because we can. Like, no, we have a limited amount. Yes, we can make more, but is it worth like working more, just taking care of what we own? So I feel like that's a very, very common one.
It can go, actually, as we described that, it can kind of mean, it's very relative of maybe the context, but also it can mean different things to different people. And a lot of these statements are that way.
I always do feel like too, with any of these statements, it's the way you say it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, money doesn't grow on trees. We got to work harder. Money doesn't grow on trees. Like, we don't have all of it. I mean, it's just kind of that tone.
Is that Dave? Is that Dave?
Was that your
Dave
impression? That was Dave-O. But I will say this, and after this, you know what? The phrase that, this isn't money, but shut the door. Now I'm like, I know why my dad said it. Oh my gosh, money. Like,
turn the lights off.
Yes.
Turn the lights on. Oh my gosh.
gosh.
Every light in my house is on every day.
It drives me nuts. Luke knows that. Why is the basement light on? No one's down there. Okay, let's get back into it. So I feel like this one goes the other way. I deserve to treat myself.
Do you?
What's your reaction to that?
Well, can you afford it?
I do think there's a difference between treating yourself and then also ignoring your true reality of your financial situation. And you think like, oh, I deserve to treat myself. I deserve to have this, whatever, nice clothes or this nice facial. Like I went and got, but if I can't afford it, am I really treating myself, or am I really just stressing myself out financially? And then I'm actually creating more anxiety under the surface, where it's actually making it worse instead of just accepting reality of what I can deserve.
It's important to take care of yourself, but it's also like understanding that mindset's on kind of the opposite end of like, I'm just going to put it on a credit card.
Yes.
Because I deserve it. And it's one of those of like, do you, or you just, is it a material item where you're just like, it's going to make you happy for a minute and then, you're on to the next thing. But it's one of those statements that if you're constantly telling yourself, you're probably overspending on things that you don't really need or don't really impact, your overall well-being or your financial well-being.
I saw this on there, and I thought of two of examples that I thought were good. Were like this made sense and where it didn't make sense. So when Molly got a job in Cedar Rapids, it was her first reporter job. She went and treated herself and got a Coach bag. I don't know if you guys you probably heard of that. It's
I
like a
do. No,
handbag.
I know that one of my best friends is a big bag girl.
This is like when we first started dating, and I was like, "What is a Coach handbag?" I didn't have
I'll
any
tell
idea.
you what,
but it
it's
was
got
like,
a big price tag
You
on
weren't a
it.
big designer guy at that time.
right. But it was like $300. I mean, she went to like the outlet store or whatever and bought it. It was like $300. And I was just kind of talking with her about it, and she actually had the money in savings. She used a credit card probably, but paid it off right away. So she treated herself, but she could afford it. It was something that she could do for herself, but she had the money to do it. I also had another example of a person that retired and thought they would treat themselves and buy a boat. Well, this person also had a camper and also had house debt. And at that point, they could not afford the boat. So they treated themselves to something that they really couldn't afford.
And again, it's how you say it, but I do feel like when people say I deserve to treat myself, they're like, the psychology behind it is like they're giving themselves to permission to spend money they do not probably have. And I do think it's very hard in this world because with social media, I mean, keeping up with the Jones has always been a thing. It's just now I feel like amplified. So when they see everyone else treating themselves, like you think, oh, they have nice clothes or
They have a new car.
They're taking the vacation. I deserve that. I think that's really hard and it's easy to get that. Well, I deserve that too, because deserve is such a strong word to me. Like
I like, earn
Yes.
versus deserve,
Yes,
right?
that's what I'm saying.
Do we really deserve anything? I don't, that's,
feel like we're pretty well off.
I like the Molly example of like, hey, I got my first, big girl, big boy job. I'm going to treat myself, or I feel like I earned this. And if you can do it within, your budget and understand, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, going on, changing your eating habits and you're like, well, I'm going to have a cheat meal once a month or once a week or whatever it is. Same thing. You got to enjoy life still. It's not like we're, you can't just do all these things like, oh, I'm going to be super disciplined, never have any fun. Cause then it's like, well, what are you doing it for?
And then I agree, because I have this conversation with my dad too, where he did not treat himself at all. Like I feel like he was the opposite, where he's like, nope, I'm going to work. And now he has a harder time. Like he's like sorry, Dad, I'm blasting you here, but still overthinks taking a trip. I'm like, go take a trip. You are at the point where, you know what I mean? You should and could and afford it. So yeah.
Very generational.
Yes.
That of like that age, your parents' age. And we're seeing it, probably to the extreme opposite direction where everyone's like going, all out on trips.
Bachelorette parties are like 4-day trips.
So I'm sure at some point it'll swing back, maybe not. I don't know. Social media's probably had an impact on that. Like you said, keeping up with the Joneses.
Yes. Okay. Let me pick another one. This is kind of fun. Okay. I'm just bad with money.
Well, that's too bad.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great reaction.
Bad with money.
I'd say we definitely hear that with younger people. It's kind of a default of someone that doesn't have money or
Doesn't have money or doesn't want to understand how money works.
Yes. Or they just keep telling themselves that so they don't have to deal with not really
The
actually
stress of
coming
it.
to terms with what they could do with their money. I do feel like there are people who have a pretty decent income and they don't even realize that they could have a pretty decent life because they just say, I'm just bad with money, meaning I don't want to like take the steps, do a budget or whatever it may be to make sure I'm doing the right things to be successful. That's how I feel about it. But I do feel like that's a common one too, when people are insecure about just talking about finances, where, oh, I'm just bad with money, I just don't look at it. It's just more like, no, you could completely understand this. You're just having like negative
That's
effects.
a choice statement, right? You're choosing to, to manifest that of like, okay, I'm just,
it's a negative mindset. It really is.
So it's a matter of like, if you want to change that, you got to, find a way to, all right, I'm bad with money now, but I'm going to educate myself and do the right steps to transition to where I feel more comfortable about money, or I'm better, have a better handle on it.
Or just be like, I don't understand and I really want to understand and I am capable of understanding this. No one taught me. I don't feel like I had the right tools. Can you teach me? Like, that's just a completely different mindset. So I'm not bad with money, by the way. Thank you.
I know.
I'm just messing.
Oh,
okay, Mrs. Budget.
Okay. I can handle my finances on my own.
Well, that's great, but I can't handle my plumbing on my own.
Thank God. I mean,
Thank God we got Luke.
Yeah.
A lot of family shout outs today.
I was going to say, or
putting a grill together, or mowing my yard. a lot of different things I can't handle.
Your analog brain mix, your handy brain.
Yeah, my handy brain doesn't work. So
at least your awareness, your awareness is there on it.
Yeah, I think this a couple of levels here. There are some people that can handle their finances on their own. I mean,
absolutely,
literally,
people who understand it.
Yeah, that don't necessarily maybe need our help as much or need as much guidance as others. Correct. But until you've been in this industry, until you've been in doing this day to day, you need some sort of guidance, because there are rules and things that you just don't know about that you can maybe take advantage of. So even if you handle most of your finances on your own, I do believe meeting with a financial advisor or having a financial advisor that you trust makes sense, because you may be able to do a lot of it on your own, but they're going to be able to bring up things that maybe you haven't thought of.
See, my initial reaction is I don't think I can do anything on my own. Nothing. Like, I'm talking about my health. There's people that know way more about it. I'm talking about my own personal finances. Even when we're doing plan for other people, like, I think the nice thing about our team is like we ping ideas off each other's. Like, I don't want to solely base my success on one person, myself, or just, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a team. I like the accountability of someone just even talking. So yes, you may be able to do the numbers on your own, but there's always like a behavior behind things, or just having support. Or same, I always use the analogy, I don't do my workouts on my own. Like, someone creates my plan, I follow plan. So that's like my initial reaction.
I think of mentorship.
Yes.
It's kind of where I go with that a little bit is, I find, me personally, I'm interested in real estate and investing in real estate. I try to find people to associate with, or that I'm looking to learn from, that have done more than I've done, or done bigger deals than I've done, or, are worth more money than whatever it might be. And same thing, I think people that, you might see in your life that, like, hey, I'm not as good with money. I maybe want to do it on my own, but you should probably seek someone out that is maybe, has been through some of the trials, trial and errors or the downsides, because it can save you some time, right? It can shorten the gap to get to maybe where some of your goals are. If you have someone like, hey, I've made these 3 mistakes and I see you're making one of those. And, the quicker you can realize that, or ask someone that's been through that, the better, or, seek some financial advisor help.
I feel like seeking guidance in any aspect in your life is advantageous. And I'm not saying like you work with them directly, but even if I'm like, hey, Kole, I just want to sit down, I do my finances on my own, but I would like a second opinion, someone to look at. I'll pay you for your time, but I'm going to keep doing my plan. Like, there's different options, but again, any aspect in my life, I want some sort of guidance, or someone, again, that I feel like is doing really well, that I just want to ping ideas off of. That's how I feel about it. Financial planning is for rich people. And I feel like my stomach kind of stops on that one, just because I feel bad for people who think that way.
Rich is, again, I hate those. I hate these like subjective statements of like, well, rich to me.
And these are why these statements are dangerous.
Is different. Yeah. I hate to put anyone on a pedestal of like, hey, they've got more than I've got, so they're better. Like, that's not how we function in our household. And I don't think anyone should look like that. It's like, everyone always asks, you get this, how am I doing comparative to people my age? And I always say that is not the way we should look at this. Is like, because your goals are not the same as everyone else that are 55 years old and want to retire at 65. What do we need to do for your situation? And I think that's the thing where people get judging themselves. And back to like the financial planning aspect of like, I would say, if I were to benchmark our practice, like a lot of I would not consider, ultra wealthy from a dollar standpoint, but a lot of our people just want to know that they're trending in the right direction, and not a lot of them have millions and millions of dollars by any means. No, so
I think it's definitely a misunderstanding of who can benefit from financial planning, like assuming like, oh, I don't have a lot of money, so they're like, it's almost like they don't think they're worthy of the advice, or either they're insecure about it. But I'm like, actually, it's probably the other way, where you need people who aren't ultra wealthy, who have room to make mistakes, probably need a little more guidance just to make sure they live the way they want to in retirement. But
I've got another example on this one, because and I'm an example guy today, but I had a buddy from college call me. It's been 3-4 years ago. And he was like, hey, I changed jobs, and he's like, it's not much money or anything.
Yeah, they do that.
He's just like, I don't know if you even want to deal with it or anything like that. And I'm just like, oh yeah,
Sure, I'll help you out.
Yeah. And come to find out, I mean, he needed some financial planning. He needed some help with, selecting Roth or pre-tax in his 401k. And he actually had more because he was comparing himself to maybe other people that he thought had money. I mean, he had over $100,000, and I was just like, man, that you got a great start here. Like that's awesome. And he's just like, oh, I don't think it's that much, But so again, rich is a relative term. Like I think everyone,
rich in health, rich in wealth, rich in life, rich in family. Like the rich is so broad, and
everyone needs some sort of guidance when it comes to your accounts, your retirement accounts, your finances, your wealth, however you want to describe it, because it's not something that you do on a daily basis. Whether it's a $5,000 rollover or a $500,000 rollover, you need guidance on what to do with that.
And I'm going to say this. I feel like most of these statements are but this is such like all these statements is I'm comparing myself to who I think are the masses, and you have no idea what's going on in people's homes and life. And there might be someone that does have a high income. They might be miserable at home. And I'm not saying this is what that statement is, but I'm saying that's why you should never compare, because as long as I always say this, taking care of your house, what's going on under your roof and your planning and what you think is successful, like that's what's going to lead you on a path to find guidance with people.
It's why we harp so much on defining like goals, objectives versus like dollar amounts, returns, different individual selections of investments. Like it's first, let's figure out where you want to go.
Yeah.
Right. Because that sets the benchmark. The benchmark's not what Kole Peterson's doing or what Cole Jaskie's doing. It's what you want to do and where your goals are trending. And so it's always being careful to compare yourself, because it's not a good, you're probably never going to be happy.
Especially with money.
Yep.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.
Let's do a little dollars and cents.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Cole J, big news. Fed's cut rates. What do you got for us in the dollars and cents?
Yeah. How's the federal funds rate impact our money? All right. So that's something, just going to give a brief overview, what the Fed funds rate is. And I maybe have talked about this before, but the Fed funds rate is the rate that the banks, our local banks or large banks across the country, they will borrow against to get reserves for their lending purposes for their bank. And then there's another for their own banks. So they're borrowing it from the Fed, or that's the price they're paying for dollars if they need capital, depending if that bank needs capital or not.
So it's not actually something that affects you and me's daily life. It is really just a baseline.
Yep. And what really affects us is the prime rate. Prime rate is the rate most banks lend to someone that has good credit quality. That's the base rate that they'll lend on a commercial loan or a lot of different types of loans. And then it goes, and that affects really, I'm just going to rattle off some of the things that prime affects. So the Fed funds rate, that affects the banks, and the banks pass that on to us. So when Fed's cut last week, 50 basis points, Prime went down 50 basis points as well. So prime's currently at 8% today. It was 8.5% last week before they cut. But certain things that do get impacted by that, home equity lines of credit. So their home equity lines of credit are most of the time variable rate lines of credit based on the equity in your house. Credit cards, that's the most common one. Used car loans and new car loans, just kind of depending on where you're going. Those are the most common ones. There's, stuff in commercial real estate, all different types of loans. But I thought that was interesting. I got this from numbers, from Bankrate. And it was just a look back from July 21st, 2021. That was when they, started hiking interest rates at that time. looking to September 11th, 2024 of some different loan types. So in 2021, home equity lines of credit, they were 5.33% on average across the country. As of September 11th, before the Fed cut, 8.5%. So, over 3% increase. Credit cards, which didn't jump as much as I thought, actually. And credit cards are very impacted based on personal situations too. But it was 16% in 2021. The average in September 11th was 21%. Yeah, so that's rough. Used cars. 4-year used car loans, 4.8%, 2021, 8.33%. And I think credit cards and used cars are probably the most, think of
debt.
Yeah, used debt for the common everyday person. I think most people have a credit card. Unfortunately, we have too many people that have credit card balances and used car loans. So pay off those credit card balances. But that's how the Fed funds rate, impacts our daily lives.
But that's a good point, and that's something that we don't necessarily, maybe I don't bring it up enough to clients, is if you have a home equity, or if you have a home that's paid off, you're better off to take a little bit of a home equity loan
100%.
than to put it on a credit card and pay it off over time. So, little situations like that you can look at to save on interest. 21 versus 8 is obviously 13% per year based on whatever your balance is going to be a big chunk of money.
What's great about home equity, I'm a big fan of home equity lines of credit as long as you're disciplined with them.
I was going to say it comes back.
Yeah, it comes with discipline, right? But it's one of those that you can actually pay off the balance and have it there as like a credit card emergency fund for you and not be paying any interest. So if you have a $30,000 home equity line, use $10,000 to remodel a bathroom, pay it off. Most of them are 5 or 10 years. They're open for 5 or 10 years at most institutions. Some of them they'll close if you pay them off, but so you kind of have that there as an emergency. Now they're technically supposed to be used for, your home, but a lot of people use them for, instead of using a credit card. Like, hey, you've got to spend $5,000 for some new appliances. Let's put on that home equity line of credit versus that credit card that you're going to run a balance on at 20% interest. So yeah, great point.
So you should work with an advisor, is what you're saying, Kole.
Yeah,
we're always.
There's all kinds of different situations.
I'm just messing. Well, let's get into more of the statements then. We'll just see how it goes. But thank you, Kole. Always appreciate your numbers, you little nerd. Okay. He's laughing. I don't need to think about retirement yet. That's your.
That is something that we do hear pretty frequently. In many different ways. Obviously, people say like, I don't need to start saving or I don't need to start thinking about that. It's so far off. But everyone thinks about retirement. I mean, nobody wants to work forever. Most, I should say, 99% of Americans don't want to work the rest of their life. There are select few that do, but most people have thought about, okay, when I do actually leave employment or not work anymore, that's thinking about retirement. So at all times you can be saving for retirement. There are different times in your life that you're going to save more and you're going to save less. Most notably when you're having kids and you got a lot of costs and maybe just bought a house, you're going to probably maybe save less at that time. But when the kids are gone or the kids, spending slows down, a house gets paid down a little bit, something like that, you may save more. So most people have thought about retirement, even if they say they haven't.
Well, Jay, what do you think?
I would agree with that. I think most people are just using it as kind of a defense mechanism of like, hey, I know I'm not subconsciously probably saving anything for retirement. I think everyone wants to, right? If they have enough funds, if you gave someone enough money to do what they wanted, they're going to save for retirement at some point because they don't want to work forever. If you have a normal job where you work and, at some point, and I think that's just a statement to tell yourself like, I'll worry about it later, and it's more like, I just don't want to handle that problem right now.
That's
right?
Something that goes along with that quote that you said is I'll probably never retire. I hear that from people a lot too.
Yeah.
I'll just work my whole life.
I'll probably never retire. Well, you don't have to. I mean, we can try to plan for you to retire at some point. And guess what? Most people are forced to retire at some point because you can't. Health. You're not going to be able to work until you're 88 years old. So, yes, you can work past the normal retirement age or what you consider to be normal, but you're probably going to retire at some point.
We want everyone to have a choice. You choose to retire is up to you, but we want to plan for you to be able to make that choice, versus happen to work.
I definitely think that's an anxiety statement.
Yeah.
Like it's coming from anxiety of like, I don't feel like I'm doing the right things or I don't feel like I can save. So I'm just going to say I'm not ready versus like, hey, I probably should get ready. You know, deep down, you're like, I need to do something now because I'm a huge intentionality person. Like what you're doing now is what's going to be the next 10 years. You know what I mean? Same with retirement. What you do in your 40s and 50s is going to be, 30, 40, 50s is going to be a retirement. So
I have one here.
Okay. Ooh, Cole J's going to take one off the sheet.
Investing is too risky. I love that statement. You know, we hear that all the time. I mean, I don't love it, but I just
So you love that statement?
I don't. I
It makes
like
my
to.
stomach hurt.
I like to tell me more. Right. That's what I want to.
Yeah.
I want someone to say that, and then I'm going to respond to say, tell me more about that statement. Like, what's that mean to you? And that's
a
one
good
thing.
way
I
to
think
do it.
most people that think investing is too risky, I think they're somewhat uneducated. Now, there are some people that just are super risk averse. They want CDs. That's it.
But I also think that's because they haven't educated themselves.
I completely agree.
I think that's just how they were raised, or either their mindset of just life, and they haven't looked at the opportunities.
And there's such a bigger picture to investing, and that's a broad statement. Investing can be investing in real estate and stocks and bonds, whatever it might be. But there's so many advantages to investing, whatever asset class, especially if you have a long period of time for anyone. And I love to have that debate with anyone that says, makes that statement.
What do you think, Cole?
So investing is too risky. Okay, like Cole said, like what are you investing in? Are you investing in flip houses? Yeah, that's pretty risky to flip houses, and especially if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, but investing in the stock market, I mean, if you look at the last 100 years, yeah, it's risky at times when it goes up and down. But if you look at 10 years time period, almost never have you lost money in that 10 years. And so investing is too risky is really broad. And I think most people that you hear this from are talking about investing in your 401k or your IRA. And if you actually do invest and you keep it for a long time, although it may be risky at times, it's going to return over time.
I just feel bad for those people. That's where my initial reaction is, because it's such it's obviously how people make money. If you like understand it and you think you're just going to accumulate wealth just on your income alone, like you're missing on the point of like compound interest opportunity. Like the market does repeat itself. And I always say this, if the market crashes, we all have way more problems. You think all the money in the world is just going to crash someday, and all these rich people don't realize how much is in the market? Like the people who make money are the ones that put their money to work. And that's like, it's just, again, it's an education thing.
And it's definitely education. So I was going back, and it's understanding. I think most people that say that is they're probably not, taking the time to educate themselves on a certain asset class. And I think the more you get comfortable, and some people will never do that, and that's fine. But I've seen the value. We see the math of like, and we see it with our own statements, our own clients that are very, wealthy from a monetary standpoint, of like the compound effect of being invested in specifically in the stock market.
A lot of these relate to that person that made $40,000-$50,000 their whole career, but they invested long term. They always saved something, and we see them end up with millions of dollars because they just played the long game. And they played I'm going to put some in, and I'm not going to accumulate a ton of debt. I'm going to pay things as they go, budget,
That's why
the things
teachers
that are right.
like top 3 millionaires, like self-made millionaires, because they just do. I mean, yes, they have vipers, but they're just taking away.
It can be repetitive, but it also can be simple, very simple. You need to do it early, and you just need to be consistent. Early and consistent. If you can do those two things.
I like that one. You know what? There's one on this sheet I hear all the time that is not on here, but I feel like it goes with this.
Wait, you just said it's on the sheet, but it's not on
Excuse me.
there.
Excuse me. One, I feel like I currently hear a lot in this world. I'm just saying, for people who don't invest, I'm thinking of people who don't invest, but then they go around and say this statement: it must be nice. I feel like I hear it must be nice all the time. Like, and I get infuriated by this. That's my initial reaction, because it must be nice is like hard for me, because I'm always like I've heard people say to me like, oh, it must be nice. I'm like, what's nice? Like, define nice. How do you think, you know what I mean?
Oh, she's getting fired
up. It's one of those comparative, one of those comparative statements
also,
again, right?
It's also, to me, it's kind of like a pity on me. Like, I don't have that nice of a life, which I'm like, you create your life. And
everyone has a choice.
Luke gets fired up too, because he has guys at work that kind of like, talk about their finances. And Luke's like, you go to the gas station and buy $10 every day. He goes, I make my lunch every single day. So it must be nice.
Must be nice.
Well,
you don't make it for him?
Cole Peterson, knock it off.
What the heck?
Absolutely not.
That statement makes a lot of people's. I think if you're in the entrepreneur world,
no, but I still even
you hear
think
that a
with
lot.
Money, like if they don't have money, oh, it must be nice. Well, that person who made 50,000 their whole life, they're not thinking it must be nice. They're thinking I put 15% away into retirement. I worked really hard and I stayed inside my means. Like, you know what I mean? It's a compare thing.
Need to replace that must be nice to like, how do I get there?
How can I obtain
how do I do that?
It's
like,
just one I don't like.
We hear this sometimes when we go out to the golf course at 1:30 in the afternoon.
It's like,
and people come out there at 4:30 and we're finishing up and they say, "Oh, it must be nice." I'm like,
you're like, I've been at work since 4:30.
I was at work at 5, and yeah, it is nice
that weekends and late evenings.
That I own my own business and I can make my own hours. Yeah, you're right.
It's exactly why we do what we do.
It's such a box mindset too. It must be nice. Like, I feel like we live in a world where you can definitely create how you want your life to look. Like, I'm not saying people don't have privilege and steps ahead. I'm just saying, like, there's people who, most millionaires are self-made. So
I got one. Kole got to do it. I got one.
Okay.
So it's not always just this comment, but something along this is, I'm waiting for the right time to invest. And I hear that from people like,
when's the right time?
Yeah, it's just what define.
Yeah. So, it's like, well, when do you think's the right time to start investing? It's like right
Yesterday.
now, anytime. Like, if you look at history, yeah, even if you invested now and the stock market dropped tomorrow, 10 years from now, you're still going to be ahead. So don't wait to invest. There is no right time to invest. Yes, if you would have put all your money in March, whatever it was, 15th of 2009, yes, you would have more money. Who knew that was the bottom? Who knew that was going to be the lowest point we're going to see
nice
the stock
for
market?
People to not
see.
Yeah, the lowest point of the stock market probably ever in my life that I will ever see. But I didn't know it at that time. I would have never known that's the time to put all your money and all your chips in the, so don't save your money in a savings and try to wait for the right time to put in the stock market. Put some in your savings, put some in the stock market, and just keep accumulating over time.
I don't have the math for this. I wish I did, Mr. Stat Guy.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say,
mathematically, there's very few days throughout the year that you actually, most of your returns are made on like a handful of days throughout the year. So that's where, like, there's all kinds of publications that'll show you that, of like, that's why it's more important to get invested, because you need to be invested on the days where the market doesn't, no one saw it. And there's a 3 or 4% move in the upswing of the market, and you never know. And no one, the best stock pickers, investors, Warren Buffett's, they don't know what days are going to be those real big days. And most of the returns, it's something like a handful of days throughout the year you get most of your returns in the market. Yep.
And my reaction is like, name one thing in your life where it's the right time. Right time to have a kid, right time to have a job, right time to move. There's always, like, same with investing. Like, when's the right time to invest? Now. Because time is money.
Yeah, sure.
That's how I feel about
it's the right time to have a kid too.
Kole J, how'd that go for you too?
Yeah.
We did puzzles backwards.
Trial and error.
Oh yeah.
Trial and error.
Puzzle pieces different.
It's always fun that it is the right time to have twins though. You should always think it's the right time for that.
I feel like I have to read this one off.
Okay.
Because this is just me. I don't need a budget. I know where my money goes.
Oh gosh.
What's your reaction? This is just.
That's gotta make you cringe.
I just think it's great. Like, you don't need a budget. Tell me where your money goes then.
Yeah.
Where does it go?
I disagree. I disagree with this. That even if you don't like every month budget, you should have an idea of where things are going. Every once in a while, every year, you should review, what am I spending where is it going? How much am I saving? Because that's the people that we see get behind, because they're spending more money on going out to eat or vacations than they should be, and they're not realizing it, and they should spend more on investing or doing other things to make their life better.
What do you think?
This is I'm listening to a book right now by the name, I'm not going to go into the name, but it's the individual wrote the book is Tillman Fertitta. It's a biography on himself. So, and he owns a bunch of casinos, restaurants, all kinds of stuff. And
that sounds like
he gets a daily report, like a daily budget report on the segments of his business every single day.
Wow.
And now that's extreme in the public market, but he's worth like $6 billion, and he budgets for every business daily. So you're telling me a guy that's got, that's an extreme.
The wealthiest people do budget.
Yes, and that's what I'm getting at, is like, if he can do it, why am I not doing it on my own checking account?
Yes.
Just to know and it's more of an awareness thing. And he does it because he's got impacts of trends, and feels like he can notice trends early on if he's seeing it every day. And this is the same thing with us. And I'm like, well, we don't need to be 100% on every detail, but
No,
you need to be aware of where
there's-
your money is going on an ongoing basis.
I think people think of a budget as restricting. Like,
Yeah.
Like I think people, like if they knew my budget, you know how many times I'd change, like, okay, I'm going to actually spend the money here. And it's just knowing what's coming in and taking care of things first. So like I'm paying myself first. I'm investing first. I'm contributing to the things that are important first. And I think a lot of people, especially even I think larger income, sometimes they like the money. Like I feel like another phrase we hear is, I don't know where my money's
Easy
going.
come, easy go.
I don't know where my money's going. And I'm like, well, you don't know where it's going because you're not like putting a name to where it's going. Like budgets to me are not restricting. They're actually really freeing because it takes the anxiety out of my money. It also takes the me not living outside of my means out of it. Like I'm not making decisions based on reaction, like behavior. Like I really want this right now. I think I deserve it.
I think if
versus like earning it.
Everyone could put their, like in that scenario where like the high income earner, but they're not feel like they're saving that much. You put it in percentage terms. They do a budget and put in percentage of like where they're spending, here's what you're spending on dining and going out. Here's where you're spending on your cars. And you start putting that in percentages. That's
Yes.
where the dollar amounts. But if you go percentage, all of a sudden you're like, I'm spending 30% of the dollars that I make on cars or on
Yes.
whatever it might be.
Not my
that's,
housing,
That's
not
where
my
then you're like,
investing.
okay, I need to probably either figure a way to reduce that down to 15%, and then I can save that 15. Or hey, we got too expensive of cars, or we're door dashing too much food.
Who does that, Kole?
Inflation's got me
Buying
with the
too
door.
many pans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The caraway pants.
Yeah,
they
Jiminy
are great,
Christmas.
non-toxic.
Yeah, they
you
are
know?
very nice.
But my point is, it's not, I don't feel like people, one day, one of my friends was like, you budget every month. And I do. I enjoy it.
Bailey's a nerd.
I just enjoy like the intentionality behind it. But I'm like, yeah, they're like, oh, you must not have a lot of money. I said, I didn't say I have money. I said, I'm just intentional with my money. There's a big difference. And I feel like even if you do feel behind in investing, that is a good way to be like, okay, 25% of my house is going to my house, water this. 15% is going to investing. This is going to saving. Like it's a very expensive world we live in right now. So it's really just saying where your money's going before you get it.
And awareness.
Yes. So I had to read that one because, I love a budget. A lot of like good phrases that I do feel like people, not good, but to talk about because I do think they're just sometimes instilled to us. Like we say them, we don't even realize what the impact they have on our life. And I feel like it is a learned behavior or a limiting belief.
It's a lot of just changing the mindset, right? If you want to get better in your financial life, your financial literacy, it's really the first thing you need to step is like, I'm going to be better with money, or I'm going to choose to budget better. Make that decision, make your mind think it first, and then take your action steps. So super important. We also want to hear from the listeners, right? We're gonna put some of the key phrases out on Facebook. We'd like to hear, what some of the common phrases you've heard or ones that you've heard and experienced in your financial life.
A lot of I statements like I can't or I won't or I do not know how. Like what have you heard growing up? I really am curious.
They can be good ones too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
because
statements.
we just covered some of them, but
Yeah.
they're mostly maybe from our childhood
Yeah.
or from
Or personal
the Googler,
experiences. Yeah, personal
something like
experiences.
that. Yep.
Yeah. But that'll be good.
Yeah. So one thing that we want to bring up is that we have a Medicare seminar coming up. It is Tuesday, October 8th. It is at the Starlight. It is open to anyone that wants to come. So you don't have to be on Medicare or be 65 or 60, any certain age. You don't have to be anything. We'll have food and drinks, and we're going to have a guest speaker that's going to go through a presentation from 6 to 7:30, and it'll be a lot of fun. You'll learn something. I learn something even though we are in this industry, we learn something new every time because Medicare is always changing. So come join us if you'd like to.
Yeah, we love that because we get to meet new people. They get to meet us and fajitas because it's a fajita buffet. Let's go.
Yeah. Open to the public. So
Yeah.
make sure you either email us, email our great assistant Emily at fullswingfp.com or call the office 515-308-4545 and reserve your spot.
Did you know the office number by heart?
I did.
You use your cell
I
phone a
looked
lot.
at it, but I did know it by heart.
And again, we love doing this podcast. We love it because I feel like we get to touch a lot of people and educate a lot of people that we may not see in person. And I hear people in the public. I was at a tennis camp the other day with my son and some nice gentleman was like, I love your podcast. It's super informative. So if you know someone that would love to hear about these common phrases or other episodes, share them, like us, follow, subscribe, because that's how the internet world works. Algorithms, that's the best thank you we can get. Or leave us a good review. Don't leave a bad review unless it's not about me. So if they think your dreams are crazy, show them what crazy dreams can do. Kelsey Plum.
Go Cubs.
Go Fever.
You've been listening to How to Money with Kole and Kole, the podcast of Full Swing Financial Planning. To learn more, visit their website at www.fullswingfinancial.com and follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn.
For now, I'm Kole.
I'm Baileigh.
And I'm Kole.
And we'll see you on the greens. 4.
Security and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.